South Africa is the richest country in Africa for whites.
How does it feel when foreigners from far away, from far away, are in your land and they are way more richer than you, you know? I get this from Southafricans where there is topics where there is complaints about foreigners. But in today's video, I'm going to react on this video I have seen on the social media. There is this South African say that South Africa is a very rich country, but for the whites, not for the black South Africans. And he went on explaining. First of all, let's watch this video and then we go react about it. Tell me in the comment section, what do you think?
South Africa is the richest country in Africa for whites, who, when you look at 7 million whites controlling 93% of the South African economy, their income per capita is over $56,000 every year. That's American level, US level. But the black South Africans, who constitute 54 million people in South Africa, have to share 7% of the economy. When you look at that income per capita per person, it's $550 a year. That means black South Africans have a lower income per capita than any other African country. So they're the poorest Africans, so to speak. That's destabilized already.
You've said this before, and I remember it was one of the things we had to discuss, that you've said, and this is important for me as a black South African. Black South Africans pride themselves almost on having the best whites on the continent. We had whites that built Eskom and Sasol, and that's why we're better than you and we beat our chests. But your argument is, sure, you guys live in Santa, or we say you live in Santa, but you actually in Alex. And now let's compare Alex to what you claim are poorer blacks in Nigeria, the Congo, Sudan, and they actually live better than you. Black people are not doing that like for like comparison. Yeah. We're boasting about, oh, look at Wits University. You never built Wits, and its greatness comes from the white Jewish business people. Boast about, they didn't even build Forte, but boast about an institution you've built. And you're basically saying black people in South Africa, who are 80%, only own 7% of the economy. And when you split it, it's $550 per black person. And white people, and I think in your tweet you also spoke about Indians, they control 93% of the economy. Yeah. And per person, that's about $56,000.
Yes.
We're living in two different worlds.
Two different worlds.
Welcome back. Why are white South Africans or whites more richer than black South Africans? Why are white South Africans still controlling South Africa, even though their percentage is down more than black South Africans? Now, I was looking, I was researching on why South Africans are that more richer, and I came to understand that white South African, particularly the European descendant, accumulate wealth through combination of colonization, resource extraction, land ownership, and policies of racial segregation, that is apartheid. For example, colonization and land seizure was the biggest part when the white South Africans got their wealth. European settlers, particularly Dutch, Afrikaners, the Boers and British colonizers began arriving in South Africa in 17th century. Over time, they claimed large tracts of land, often by displacing indigenous African populations. So they came in 17th centuries and they took land from the indigenous African population. Wow. It started way back. In the 19th and 20th century, white settlers were granted ownership of the most fertile and resources-rich lands. In the 1913 Natives Land Act further entraced this by restricting black South African to 7% of the country's land. Later increased to 13%, while the remainder were reserved for white ownership. Now, you want to tell me that there was even a law that restricted black South Africans to own a certain amount of land? Restricting black South African to 7% country's land. It was like this was too much. I can't believe what was happening in South Africa. It happened in a lot of African countries, but this why I'm telling the youths right now, let's go back and learn the history so that we know where are the enemies, so that we know how it started, so that we know how to overcome it, that it's not happening again, you know. And that's why we are creating awareness on Pan-Africanism. We are creating awareness on how to reclaim our African back, our motherland back. And we can only do that by unity. I say every day, unity, unity, unity. That's why I urge a lot of South Africans, and you know, South Africans is a country that we have Zimbabweans, Malawians, Nigerians, and Ghanaians. Even when they are foreigners in your countries, these immigrants, we love them. We come together and see what we can do for the land. Because if you go on the history of how white South African acquired more wealth than black South Africans, you will know a lot happened. Now, another discovery of diamond and gold in 19th century, like in Kimberley in 1867, and gold was discovered in Witwatersrand in 1886. Now it created immense wealth for the European. You just tell me, the whites are here, they have claimed the bigger parts of land, and then boom, they discover there is diamond and gold. Africans or indigenous South Africans cannot get anything from this because already they were displaced from their land. They did not have the energy to fight. Now, black South Africans were the one who were the laborers to this gold mine or diamond mining. Another thing that it was about apartheid and economic exploitation. For example, between 1948 and 1997, apartheid was enforced as strict racial, giving white South African exclusive access to political power, prime economic opportunities, and social privileges. Black South Africans were systematically marginalized and excluded from high-paying job, quality education, and land ownership. Now, during apartheid, black South Africans were restricted in, quality or high-paying jobs, quality education, and land ownership. This made black South Africans to continue being poor and white South Africa to acquire a lot of wealth. We are learning together. If you didn't know why it's happening like that, now we are learning here. Black labor was cheap and abundant. Like mining, agriculture, and manufacturing were able to thrive on the back of underpaid and oppressed black workers. This enabled white South African, particularly Afrikaners and British settlers, to build significant wealth. Now, they were underpaying the black who are working for them. Like, for example, if you have to pay me 100 rand, you pay me 10 rands. The 90 of them, you increase your wealth. Another thing that made white South Africans to be more and more rich and black South African to be more poor is Afrikaner nationalism and state support. Like the rise of Afrikaner nationalism in the 20th century saw Afrikaners are descended of Dutch, consolidate economic and political power through state-owned enterprise, favorable government contracts, and protectionist policies. Now, when Afrikaners took over power, of course, they were being favored, and they were pulling their side only, but the black were in dark. Control of financial and industrial sectors. Now, the white were in control of financial and industrial sectors. The stock exchange, which grew rapidly due to mining wealth, further enriched white South Africans who had access to capital markets. They were controlling key sectors such as finance, agriculture, industry, and retail. Companies like Anglo-American, De Beers, and Sanlam were dominated by white South African. And there, black South Africans were underpaid. These are the reason why we are looking why white South Africans are more richer than black South Africans. And we had something called post-apartheid. Now, apartheid ended in 1994, as we know. But white South Africans who had benefited from decades of apartheid policies retained much of their economic wealth and assets. Despite political change, and we had black president who was Nelson Mandela, but it's like nothing changed. Economic transformation was slow. So it was so hard for black South Africans to, come and overtake white South Africans. So it was like nothing changed as we know, people say that Nelson Mandela was sold the country. So we can tell that nothing changed. So in summary, the accumulation of wealth that white South African got when they came to South Africa in 18th or 19th century, the policies they put, the control of economy, the exploitation, these historical factors made white South Africans to be more and more richer than black South Africans. Wow. I'm getting to learn a lot, and let's learn a lot, because we have to know where rain started falling in South Africa. South Africa is a very rich country, but a lot of black South Africans are still in poverty. But we need change. This corruption and the leaders that are in power right now are still continuing the colonization system. Nothing is changing. Even if we have black presidents in South Africa, nothing is changing. We had Thabo Mbeki, we had Jacob Zuma, name this, Julius, we call Nelson Mandela, but nothing is changing. That's why we want to see youths, fresh minds, to see if we can do something for our countries. Let us reclaim back what is ours. Now, I can say the widespread poverty of black South African is largely rooted by the history of colonization and apartheid history, everything, colonial depression and land seizure, if you may, we have explained about it. It was about apartheid economy and social exclusion, exploitation of labor, lack of land resources, structural unemployment, underpayment, housing and infrastructure inequality, slow economic transformation. Even when they got black president, nothing changed. It was slow because we still had white South Africans still in control of economy, financial, industrial, and everything. And we know that they lacked a quality education. So starting to change slowly, getting quality education for them, it is still, even right now, it is still a pain on, to the black South African. High population growth and urbanization lead to this one, So the poverty among black South African is deeply rooted by the country colonial and apartheid. I've said that. How will we conquer this? How will we come to have equality? How will black South African become rich again and, enjoy what is theirs? Enjoy the diamond and gold of South Africa. How? I understand that Jacob Zuma was in power and Cyril Ramaphosa was his vice president. I was told that. I don't know. I didn't look. I'm sorry. And yet, Jacob Zuma didn't do much for South Africa. And yet, we voted again for Ramaphosa to come in power. He was the vice president. What can you do? We're just exchanging thieves. That's what we are doing. But I'm hoping that the youth of South Africa, I see videos of youth of South Africa talking out loud, speaking. We need to stop xenophobic, to stop segregation, like these things, and focus on better things in South Africa, because South Africa is one of the country that it is the topmost, the richest country in Africa, but it needs to be the richest for the blacks, not for the whites. The whites are here to help us grow the economy too, but we need to have equality. Tell me what you think of the comment section about this video. I want to see your reaction on this video because I'm looking forward to get your messages on email. Tell me what you think. If there's something I've said bad, tell me, you know. Until next episode, peace be with you.